Well, let's get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is my second time going live. The video will be available afterwards, so if you miss any of it or all of it, it's going to be there for you to watch. Today I'm going to talk about some of our drug laws. Louisiana has 5 schedules of drug laws, and today we're going to focus on Schedule 1. Drugs, what some of those most common drugs are. There's over 100 listed, so we're not going to cover them all, but we are going to cover some of the most common ones. Today's topic, breaking down drug laws in Louisiana. Are they fair or flawed? And we're going to cover Schedule 1, so let's dive right into this. I want to cover a few of the definitions. There are 45 definitions found in our Controlled Dangerous Substance Law section, but I'm going to cover the most common ones, the ones people may have a question about. Number 6, cannabis, and cannabis is defined. Cannabis includes all parts of plants of the genus cannabis, seeds thereof, the resin extracted, and every compound, manufacture, salt, derivative, mixture, or preparation of such plant, but shall not include the mature stalks of such plant. So if you get questioned and you want to know what cannabis is, you can find it here. It's number 6 in Title 40, 966. Actually, the definitions are Title 40, colon 961. Number 6 defines cannabis for us. Let's go to the next definition. CDS, number 8. Distribute is defined for you. If you get charged with distribution, this is where you're going to find out how that's defined. Imitation CDS, CDS stands for Controlled Dangerous Substance. We're going to talk about that definition. We're going to define what it means to manufacture, or how it's defined by the law. We're going to talk about that. And the definition of marijuana. So let's go to number 8, number 15, number 21, number 26, and number 27. Number 8, controlled dangerous substance means any substance defined or enumerated, blah, 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 or any substance which may hereafter be designated as a controlled dangerous substance. So Louisiana Title 40, 964 lists the controlled dangerous substances. We'll get to that. Next definition we want to cover is distribute. What does it mean to distribute? To deliver a controlled dangerous substance, whether by physical delivery, administering, subterfuge, furnishing a prescription, or by filling, packaging, labeling, or compounding the substance pursuant to a lawful order of a practitioner. So this is for doctors. A medical provider can distribute controlled dangerous substance. If you're not a licensed medical provider, you have no authority to administer these substances. Next definition, imitation controlled dangerous substance means a non-controlled substance which by appearance or operation, including color, shape, size, marking, or packaging, would lead a reasonable person to believe the substance is a controlled dangerous substance. So if you take parsley and you drop some seeds or marijuana seeds and you try to pass it off as marijuana, that is an imitation controlled dangerous substance. Next, I want to cover marijuana. How is that defined? All parts of the plant's cannabis, whether growing or not, the seeds thereof, the resin extracted from any part of such plant, and every compound, manufacture, salt, derivative, mixture, or preparation of such plant, its seeds or resin. So if you have parts of the marijuana plant, you can be charged with possessing marijuana. And if you have enough of it, you'll be charged with possession with intent to distribute marijuana. I think we've covered all the definitions I want to cover. As stated earlier, there's 45. We're not going to play Webster's and define all those terms here, but these are 6 common ones. Narcotic drug, opiate, prescription, production, stimulant. So we're going to cover these 5 definitions also. So what is considered a narcotic drug? Opium, cocoa leaves, opiates. A compound, mixture, salt, derivative, or preparation of opium, cocoa leaves, or opiates. A substance and any compound, blah, 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 except that the words narcotic drugs shall not include decoconized cocoa leaves or extract of cocoa leaves, which extracts do not contain cocaine or egonine. I'm not sure if I pronounced that word right or not, but if you have a decoconized cocoa leaf, I don't know why you would have that. There are some uses. That's not considered a narcotic drug. Opioid means any dangerous substance having an addiction-forming or addiction-sustaining liability similar to morphine. And the definition goes on, but that's the most important parts of that definition. Prescription, I think it's important we cover this. As you may know, if you do not know, you can possess a certain amount of marijuana in Louisiana now with a prescription for a prescribed medical use. So what is a prescription? That's defined. A written request for a drug or therapeutic aid issued by a licensed physician, dentist, veterinarian, osteopath, or podiatrist, which is a foot doctor, for a legitimate medical purpose, for the purpose of correcting a physical, mental, or bodily ailment, and acting in good faith in the usual course of his professional practice. So if you have a buddy that's a doctor, he can't just write you a script. This prescription has to be written, just like any other prescription, really, by somebody who's writing it in the course of their professional practice. All right, I want to cover 38, which is production, and 41, which is stimulant. Production includes the manufacture, planting, cultivation, growing, or harvesting of a controlled dangerous substance. So there you have it. If you make it in your back bedroom or your shed, that's manufacture. If you plant it on your property or somebody else's property, that's planting. Cultivating is just farming, growing, or harvesting. These are all elements of farming. If you do any of that, then you can be charged with production of a controlled dangerous substance. So let's now talk briefly about ephedrine products. Any product that contains any quantity of ephedrine may be dispensed only upon the prescription of a duly licensed practitioner authorized by the laws of the state to prescribe prescription drugs. So here are the dosage limits. If it's a solid oral dosage, you're limited to theophylline 100 to 130 milligrams, ephedrine 12.5 to 24. B, theophylline 60 to 100, ephedrine 12.5 to 24. And I'm not going to try to pronounce this word because I'm going to get it wrong. Guan, it starts with a G. C, ephedrine, same thing. These are limits. If the prescribing doctor prescribes medication, then these are the limits. A, B, C, and D are the limits at which they can combine these various drugs to treat you for whatever ailment you may have. And then in liquid form, it's a little bit different. These are the limits. Theophylline, not more than 45 milligrams. Ephedrine, not more than 36. G, not more than 100. Phenobarbital, not more than 12 milligrams. A doctor has to prescribe this, and these are his limits as to how much he can prescribe for you. Additional limits. This, as I said, I won't spend a ton of time just reading to you. So if you have any questions, you can ask on the live, or you can send me leave a comment below and ask your question. So what happens if you possess 12 grams or more of ephedrine? Let's go back. Here are the 6 exceptions. Any person possessing a valid prescription can possess more than 12 grams. A licensed manufacturer, wholesaler, distributor can possess more than 12 grams. A licensed pharmacist, obviously pharmacies probably have significantly more than 12 grams in their establishment. And any licensed practitioner who administers it. So if a doctor is qualified as part of his professional practice to administer ephedrine on site, he can possess more than 12 grams. He or she. Any person in possession of ephedrine in his residence, consistent with medicinal purposes, stored in a place you would store medicine. If it's in your own little chemistry lab, you're going to have a problem. But if it's in your medicine cabinet with the Tylenol and Motrin and everything else, and it's a normal quantity that you would expect from a prescription, then you can possess it in your home. And obviously, a wholesaler, manufacturer, retail business who sells it legally can possess it. Now, if you have a child, the limits are less, which makes sense. There's pediatric exceptions, and it says here, the previous provision shall not apply to pediatric products. If it's pediatric, a solid dosage, the max is 15 milligrams. The liquid, the max is 15 milligrams as well. However, it's 15 per 5 milliliters of liquid. If the child is under 2 years of age, there's another limit. You're limited to no more than 2 milliliters. And you can't have more than 1 fluid ounce. So you can't have a gallon of this stuff and say it's for your 2-year-old or your 10-year-old. That's beyond the limits of what the law allows. So what are the penalties for possessing more than the amount of ephedrine that's allowed by law? You can be fined up to $2,000, and you can be in prison for up to 2 years, which is a felony, or both. So let's talk now about some of the drugs that are listed in Schedule 1. I only want to focus on the most common ones because honestly, there are a lot of them. Fentanyl compounds are found in Schedule 1. Methanol, benzethidine, clonazine, codeine, morphine. Heroin is a Schedule 1 drug. Clonazolum is a Schedule 1 drug. Don't give me a hard time about pronouncing these words. And synthetic cannabinoids are found in Schedule 1. So what are the penalties if you manufacture or distribute? And we talked about that. If you manufacture something, you make it. If you distribute, you give it out, sell it. Yes, distributing includes giving a drug for free to your friend. That's considered distributing, and you will go to prison as a drug distributor. No different than a drug dealer. If you give it away, that's the same penalty as someone who sells it. So what are the penalties for manufacture? I see I spelled manufacture wrong. At least I believe I did. And distribution. It is unlawful to produce, manufacture, or distribute. And here's the penalties. If it's less than 28 grams of a Schedule 1, the minimum penalty is 1 year. The maximum is 10. And you can be fined up to $50,000. This is a felony, my friends. If it's 28 grams or more, the minimum is still 1 year, but the max penalty has doubled. You are looking at 20 years in prison and a fine of up to $50,000. Marijuana is a little different. I think the public, the legislature, the older generation population is starting to realize and accept science, which supports, there's tons of evidence that supports and shows that marijuana is not bad. In fact, worse things happen when people consume alcohol than marijuana. But I digress. So let's talk about the penalties for marijuana in Louisiana. If it's less than 2.5 pounds that you're charged with manufacturing or distributing, the minimum is 1 year in prison. The max is 10 years, and you're looking at up to a $50,000 fine. If it's 2.5 pounds or more, you're looking at a minimum of 1 year, a maximum of 20 years, up to a $50,000 fine. Heroin, 2.5 years or more, the minimum penalty is 5 years. The max penalty is 40 years. These are all felonies. The marijuana is a felony. The heroin is a felony. And you're looking at up to $50,000 fine. If you manufacture or distribute heroin and someone is injured, injured has to be hospitalized as a result of consuming the heroin that you manufactured or distributed, it is considered a crime of violence. And what's that mean? A crime of violence in Louisiana, the good time that a person can receive is less. You're going to have to do more of your time. But look what we have for heroin. You're looking at a minimum of 5 years, and it cannot be suspended. You cannot be paroled early. You're going to have to do 5 flat before you can see the light of day. The max is still 40 years, and the fine is still up to $50,000. The best thing you can do is leave this stuff alone. It's not good. It's killing people, and you're gonna go end up in prison for a long time. And I don't believe there's a district attorney's office in the state of Louisiana that will give you a break for heroin. If it's marijuana, it's negotiable. Even a lot of those guys are starting to realize, look, this stuff is it's not what we thought it. What we thought 40 years ago about marijuana, we were wrong. A lot of them are starting to see that. But heroin, no, it's killing people. We charge extra. We charge more for marijuana. We charge more if you're charged with heroin or fentanyl than if you're charged with marijuana. And the penalties for those heroin or fentanyl are significantly more than the penalties for marijuana. Now let's talk about possession. We talked about manufacturing and distributing. That is kind of when the prosecutor believes they're dealing with a drug dealer. They're going to charge them with manufacturing and distribution. Sometimes they charge users with it. Don't get it twisted. If you're a user and you have a lot, they'll still charge you with distribution, possession with intent to distribute. However, if they believe this is just somebody who's got a drug problem, put the penalties for possession are less. Now, if you possess less than 2 grams, the max penalty is 2 years in prison. That's a felony. And the fine up to $5,000. If you have 2 grams or more, but less than 28 grams, the minimum is now 1 year. If it's less than 2 grams, there is no minimum. There's only a max. And if it's 2 grams or more, but less than 28 grams, the max is 10 years in prison and a fine of up to $5,000. That's there. Now, marijuana is a little bit different than all the other drugs found in Schedule 1 when it comes to possession. If it's 14 grams or less of marijuana, you can be fined up to $100. And the police are, by law, they're supposed to give you a summons, not arrest you. If it's more than 14 grams of marijuana, you can be fined up to $500 and get parish jail up to 6 months. This still is a misdemeanor. Now I want to go back because these are both for a first conviction of marijuana. Now let's go to second, because the penalties progressively get worse. Second conviction, more than 14 grams, fine up to $1,000, jail up to 6 months. So the fine goes up, the jail time doesn't. For a second conviction, it's still a misdemeanor. Third conviction of more than 14 grams, the fine doubles again. It goes up to $2,000. And now you're looking at prison, not more than 2 years. So now on this third conviction of more than 14 grams, you, my friend, are a felon. So be very careful with that. If it's less than 14 grams, you just will keep getting a $100 fine. I guess at some point they're going to legalize it and we won't have to deal with that. But technically right now, it's even less than 14 grams is still a crime in Louisiana. Fourth conviction, more than 14 grams, fine up to $5,000, prison up to 8 years. Yes, I would agree with a lot of people who will see this, that up to 8 years in prison for marijuana is absurd. But there are people, lots of them, in Louisiana serving life sentences for marijuana. So we've made some progress, no doubt, but it's still problematic because there's so many lost souls who people have been taken away from us, from their family for marijuana. And that's something that hopefully one day we can undo or reverse or, take some steps back and give those people some relief. But this is where we are, and the best thing you can all do is be careful and stay away from these drugs. Synthetic marijuana, first conviction, $5,000 up to 6 months in jail. This stuff is bad, so the penalties are significantly worse than what you would expect from marijuana, the actual marijuana, I'll call it. Second conviction, minimum fine, $250. Maximum fine, $2,000. Prison up to 5 years. This is a felony. 3 or more convictions for synthetic marijuana. This is just possession, people. Prison up to 20 years. And there are people who have gotten this penalty. Don't think this is just a fluff or bluffing number. It has been handed out. People are serving time for this. Heroin. 2 grams or more, you're looking at prison. Minimum 2 years, maximum 4 years. I said that wrong. Let me go back. 2 grams or less. Minimum prison, 2 years, maximum 4 years. 2 grams or more, but less than 28 grams. Minimum 2 years in prison, maximum 10 years in prison. So that's really all I want to cover on Schedule 1 drugs. Next week, I'm going to talk about Schedule 2 drugs and the penalties that go along with those. If you have any specific questions about what I've covered today, leave a comment and ask. It can be about any of the items I've covered. It can be about any other drug offense. It can be about any legal issue. Either I'll respond in the comments and give you an answer, or I will do a live or make a video explaining in detail any question you may have for me. And with that being said, folks, I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. Stay safe. Go Saints. Go Tigers. Go Jags. That's the only teams I'm rooting for. If you're a fan of anybody else, I can't help you. Stay tuned. This video will be available on Facebook and YouTube. I'm going to leave it up. I'm going to continue to go live on Fridays. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you think there's a better time for me to go live, let me know. The first video I went live at 12. Today I went live at 3. I'm willing to flex. The only caveat is I have a son that plays high school football, so some days I can't go live too late on Fridays so I can make it to his games. Stay safe. Peace. Let me know if y'all need anything.